Good morning, everybody. My name is Sorka Finucane, and I'm the owner and founder of Trained In. Trained In is an online marketplace that's designated to training and consultancy services to showcase their business. The purpose of these webinars is for Trained In to help our registered providers reach a greater audience and like-minded people and potential clients like yourselves. And that's why we have the fabulous Jeanette McNamara here this morning. Our webinars are sponsored by Taste of Success, so thank you very much for the support with them. A couple of words on housekeeping before we continue. We can't see you, which a lot of people will be delighted to hear, and we can't hear you. So I'd like to promote the use of the chat facility. So please engage with us. I know that throughout the presentation, Janet is going to be asking you to make comments and to give your opinions on different elements throughout the presentation. We're not running any polls, but we will have a couple of offers. The offers are literally connect with myself on LinkedIn, and I have a connection there to Janet on her LinkedIn page as well. And Janet will go through then her own amazing offer at the end of the presentation. We're going to have a quick chat and we're going to get to know her, and she's going to tell us all about her fantastic life and experiences and how you got to where you are today. And then we'll hand over to you for your presentation. So I'll just pop a quick good morning into the chat to everybody. And good morning, Janet McNamara. How are you today? Tell me a little bit about you and how you got to where you are and everything. A little snippet.
Well, I mean, squeezing 40 years of business and some great successes and epic failures, and none of us can learn unless we have an epic failure every now and again. So I've had a couple of those too. All right, then about me. I started out I've never worked for anybody else. I've actually never had a job. I've always done my own thing. I have taken on a couple of contracts, but still self-employed. At the age of 10, I actually went into business with my cousin Susie. We live in a town called Rush. And in Rush, if anybody knows it, we have these lovely Dutch families who grow beautiful flowers, daffodils and tulips. So we have this amazing view down here at the beach of all these fields. So Susie and I used to get up in the middle of the night and sneak out into the fields and literally rob the daffodils and the tulips, take them home, sit behind the house and put them into elastic bands. And the next morning we'd go around all the caravan parks where people came on holiday and we'd sell them to the holiday makers. And everything was going fantastic until my mother and father found out what we were up to and quickly pointed out that selling somebody else's stuff without their permission wasn't actually okay. So that put an end to that. I moved on at 16 to become a manager with Avon. I was an Avon lady. And here again, I lied. You're supposed to have been 18, but I told them that I was.
Okay.
And today I still think it's okay, to tell a big fat lie as long as you can deliver the goods. All right. No point in lying about something that you're actually not able to do. But I think it's okay to tell these success lies as long as you can do it. Following on from that, I ended up in the beauty business. I studied with Baume & Conroy. I ended up as one of the youngest regional sales managers for a major cosmetic brand. And I worked for Chanel and Christian Dior for a number of years.
Wow.
I moved from that in the 1980s to having one of the very first multi-sex gyms. I owned a gymnasium called Body Basics in Malahide. And I'm talking about like mid-80s. So at this point in time, there was no such thing as all these gyms that we can all go to today. The only ones that existed were for men. I think Atlas, the gym in Dublin, was sort of the most well-known one. So that was something I did for a couple of years. While I owned that, my mother passed away at only 51. And I was pregnant on my last child. So I opted out, but successfully sold that business to an outfit called the Dublin Figure Clinic at the time. Only if there's oldies here will they remember who they were. But that was my exit out of that. And over the years, I tipped at so many other things. I've had some really successful businesses across lots of different industries, and mostly in the area of developing and recruiting people, and particularly sales forces, where I probably would say out of everything that I've ever done, that was really what I loved most. I loved working with salespeople. I loved motivating them. I loved getting them excited about what we wanted to do. And one of my biggest successes was not so long ago, but I built a company called Synergy Telecom. I was actually one of the first competitors to Eircom during deregulation. 1998, I set the business up and signed up over 40,000 customers, turned over in excess of 10 million a year, and finally ended up successfully selling that business. And I made my exit completely out of the telecoms world in around 2011, 2012.
That's fantastic.
So that was it. So I took on a couple of contracts after that, ran companies for skincare, for financial services. Really, I recruited the sales force. If they wanted to come into Ireland, they needed people, their brand ambassadors. I put that together for them. And eventually, coming to the end of all of that, in or around 2016, I really and truly had enough. Honestly, I reached burnout, and some of the stuff I'm going to talk about is some of the things I wish that I'd had more in place at the time, because I think it wouldn't have happened, but it did, and it happens to the best of us, and we can't always avoid it. So I sat with my sister on a beach in Florida. It sounds all very exotic, but I wasn't in a good place, and I decided that I would take time out, and she recommended that I should, so I did. And 6 months time out actually turned into nearly 5 years, 4.5 years, half of the year in the States, half of the year here, during which time I decided to reinvent myself, to go back to college. So I studied psychology. I did diplomas in things like the law of attraction. I studied counseling and coaching. And I figured that at the end of all of this, at the age of 60, which I was last month, I figured that I've got a lot to give. I just wanted to add a few more things to the arsenal, to the chest, to the war chest, and feel like I really knew what I was talking about. So this is what I want to do now. A few of my friends have said to me, I thought you were never going back in business again. And I might say to that, well, I'm not. I actually feel that what I'm doing is in purpose. I feel this business is my purpose. So I'm kind of happy to have landed where I would have liked to have been a long time ago, but it just always worked that way.
No.
So that's really my story.
Well, I personally, and I'm sure anybody else who's on the call, think that you are inspirational. Like, you have shown your entrepreneurial spirit since you were 10 years of age. I love it. But you're a go-getter. You're somebody who, if you want to do something, you go and do it. Or if it's not working, you change it and you pivot. And you've worked across so many different industries that you just must have such a huge gauge and be able to connect and relate to so many different business and industries and individuals. So, and then you experienced the best and the worst of business, which led you to having a burnout, which will relate you to so many other people as a coach and a mentor. And you've been there, you've done that, you've come through it. And now you're willing to share your own life experiences and help everybody else to get through the same thing, which I personally think is amazing. I had a burnout in 2014. I didn't manage to sell my company yet, but it's on the cards, hopefully for the next years. But I
have no doubt that's where you're going.
There's so many people out there that work for companies or are individuals who are struggling and don't know where to go and need support or feel alone and closed off. And I think that you are someone you're the personification of somebody who should be kind of coaching and mentoring, in my opinion. Because I think it's fascinating listening to your story and everything, and I'm really looking forward to your presentation. If anybody else has any questions or would like to ask anything of Janet, please pop it into the chat, because we're going to let her kick off our presentation in a few minutes. But I think it's fantastic, Janet, and
Okay.
what you've
Well,
done.
you know what? I think that you do have to learn a lot before you're in a position to really teach people other things. You know, I don't really buy into too much the 20-year-old going off and doing a course in becoming a life coach. And I find it hard to understand how somebody can teach people in life and business and direction unless they've actually had the life, if you know what I mean.
I know.
The longer you've managed to stay around and still be in one piece, I think the more advice that you have to give. I'm seeing names here, and I see Valerie. Good morning. I can see every one of you. I see Brenda. Hi, Brenda. I know you're saying something about life lessons have the most effect, which is fantastic, and I agree with that.
Yeah, I would too.
So if I'm missing some of your names coming up, I'll catch up with you hopefully later on in this. So if you want to get started, Sorcha. You know what I want to say to everybody, first of all, I wouldn't be on here this morning if it wasn't for the genius of Sorcha Finucane, who's sitting here. And I mean that because I was blown away by what she's done here. I think Sorcha's done something, it's one of those things that I wish I had thought of myself, you know. When people do something, you think, why didn't I think of that? But I didn't. And I think it's just amazing that you've developed this platform that allows small businesses and SMEs to come on here to talk to people about their message and really just to get out into a bigger audience and on the level playing field of the big guys who do this all the time. But people like me, we don't really get the chance to do it. So thank you for your vision, because that's the reason that I'm sitting here in my kitchen doing this for you today. So
thanks so much, Janet.
Really grateful to you.
And I suppose that's the purpose of it. Yeah. These webinars will give you, I suppose, it's not just about connecting you with potential clients. You can deliver your message to people and connect with people, because people buy from people, and it's a great way for people to understand who you are and what makes you tick. And that's how people really get to connect with you, you know, which will take you to the next
very much. And very much that's part of what we're going to talk about. And I see, hi, Aidan. That's a big question. We might tackle it later on. Is there a moment or a point of failure that has lasted with you as your most important teachable learning experience? Yes, there is. And in actual fact, what I'm going to cover today, I think it is something that if I had in place, I think that I wouldn't have lost my way some of the times that I did. So I will touch on it, but we can talk later or even after the webinar, you know, if we don't get to cover everything here. Don't want to hold everybody up too long.
Great stuff. I'll start your presentation for you there, Janet, and then you can take the controls.
Hi, Libby. Okay. Oh, great. I'm a thumbnail. I'm so much happier. I'm so much happier being a thumbnail.
I can make you a bigger thumbnail if you like.
No, it's okay. I'm big enough. All right, then. Listen, welcome, everybody. Welcome, and good morning. And honest to God, I'm absolutely so glad you're here. I'm glad you're here for a number of reasons. And one of the reasons is Sorcha has referred to me as being a webinar virgin, I think is what you called me, Sorcha. And she has it in one. You know, recent developments have caused me to have to reinvent myself. And, you know, like I said to you yesterday, old dog, new tricks and all of that. It actually gets harder, believe it or not. And I actually thought I was going to be absolutely racked with nerves coming on here today. So if I do appear to be a little bit nervous, it's probably because I am. And also because I can't see you and I can't hear you. So honestly, this is the weirdest class that I've ever delivered. I usually interact with my audience and feed off my audience, and I sort of go with the flow. And I can't really do that today except looking at your comments. So you're going to have to forgive me and bear with me a little bit. I broke a slight golden rule. I don't want to just waffle. And I just made myself a few little bullet points, not exactly notes, just to make sure that I get everything in that I want to talk to you about. I tell you what, if you haven't all popped your names in, I think some of you have, what I'd love to see is your name and just what you do. That's it. It just gives me a sense of who you are, because I'm literally going to have to use my imagination, my make-believe, to figure out who you all are here today. And clearly, I'm obviously delighted that you took the time out, and thank you for that, because I know that time is precious and we don't always have the time to do these things, but I'm hoping that this will pay off for you. It's the short webinar, apart from all the waffle and the questions and whatever. The webinar itself is not very long. So hopefully I would be remembered, I think, for the short webinar with the very long title. So let's move on to that. Okay, so the title of my webinar was The Importance of Make-Believe in Your Success. And the one thing that will give you clarity and focus, constant motivation, that's a tall order, self-belief, most important thing of all, and the enthusiasm to nail the goals, okay? So the first thing that you now know about me is that I like a challenge, and I'm not afraid of that. I'm also what's now known in the modern world as a scanner personality and a crammer personality. So that means two things. And some of you might be like this too. I'm a scanner, which means that I like to do a lot of things at the one time. And I get a little bit bored if it's just one simple thing. I like to talk about lots of different things, and I like to do lots of things. I keep lots of, balls in the air at the same time. It suits me to do that. I'm also a crammer. So I tend to cram a ton of stuff into my courses and my classes. I make people dizzy and send them out with scrambled eggs for brains after all of this. But I do it because I really like to give people value for money, for taking the time out, for attending one of my courses, for signing up as a client in coaching. So I know that you always go away with real value. So if you will excuse the pun, hi everyone. Hi Jerry, hi Jessica. Jessica, marketing manager by day, website design and marketing freelancer by night. You see, you're like me. She's got a day role and a night role. Jerry is management consultant and trainer specializing in governance, data protection, and strategy and change. Okay, amazing. Thank you for that. Keep them coming in. I can see you. Good morning, Anne. Good morning. Okay. All right. This sounds really great. So you're still putting in all your bits of information there, and that's just great. So today, hopefully, out of all that I'm going to throw at you, and we are going to talk about the future, your future, more importantly. And excuse the pun, but I'm just hoping that if you can walk away from this with just one thing that gives value to you and something that you can apply today in your life, in your business journey, in your personal journey. It doesn't make any difference if you have a job or if you're running a business, if you're creating a business, if you're self-employed, or what it is you do. The point about that is that's just a vehicle. It's a way for you to get to where you want to go. And it'll be a great achievement for me and a great achievement for you if you can take something away from this today. Now, even though I can't see you, I do know something about you. So I know, hi, Donal, health advocate and wisdom seeker. I like that, wisdom seeker. So I know a few things about you today already. So here's what I know. I know that you're a curious kind of a person, because if you weren't, you wouldn't be on here wondering what the hell is she going to talk to me about. I also know that you invest in yourself, because that's what you're doing here today. And that's one of the most important things that I think that we can invest in, and that's our personal growth. I know that you agree with me on a few things already. I know that you agree in the importance of having focus, having goals, having clarity, having motivation, but most of all, having self-belief. So that's good that we're all on the same page. And I know that you've taken the time out here today to learn just something, one thing that will make you better. And here's something, I know that you've heard it so many times before, but you know what? Life actually never gets easier. And I think we've learned that this year so far, 2020. Life doesn't get easier. We just always have to get better. That's just the bottom line with that. And as long as you're always getting better, then things won't be as difficult as they could be for other people. So I had to have a long think when I'm coming on to do this webinar, and I wanted to give you something that I felt was really going to help you in your journey, inspire you, and maybe give you a little bit of motivation. So I had to ask myself the big question. So the big question was, is it possible for me to give these guys one thing, one piece of advice And is it possible that there could be just one thing, that apart from anything else, that's also important, but without this one thing, you're going to struggle and nothing would happen. So I'm racking my brains. If I was to leave something, if I was to teach my children something, and it was the only chance I got, what would it be? What could give you excitement? What could give you direction? What would give you passion and purpose? You know, tenacity and determination. What gets you out of bed in the morning? You know, what gets the cogs turning in creativity and coming up with ideas? And then more important than anything else, is there any possible one thing that could also make you happy, that could bring happiness? Because, you know, I'm sure I don't have to say this, but if you're doing something that's making you unhappy, and if you're not unhappy, if you're not happy in what you're doing, it's just not going to work. You know, because we go against our core beliefs and our values and who we actually are. So having happiness along your journey to success is one of the most important things of all. So in any event, having given that all the thought, I actually decided, yes, that if I was to choose one thing to share with you today, I have decided that one thing would be vision. And we're going to talk about vision today, and we're going to talk about the importance of make-believe. I think that this is one of my favorite quotes or sayings. I actually have several. I'm going to share with you today some of the things that always keep me on track. Okay, always keep me on track. And I'm very much in agreement with Helen Keller. I think what she says here is even more poignant because this is coming from somebody who's actually physically blind. And she actually said that the only thing that could be worse than being blind is having no vision. All right. And I agree with her absolutely 100,000%. I think the vision is the greatest thing and the one thing that keeps us all afloat. Helen Keller was blind, but she had a very clear vision from an early age and early childhood. And she frequently spoke about the fact that this vision was her light in the darkness, bearing in mind she was in complete and total darkness. So this vision is not at all what's important. This vision is what's important for every one of us to have, and for us to have it really clearly. Because whatever happens to you, and if ever the lights go out in your life, and you're faced with a struggle, and if you haven't already been there, believe me, you will. Your vision is really your why. It's actually the reason that you're doing something in the first place. And when you have a reason to do something, believe me, it actually becomes so much easier and so much enjoyable because you know why you're doing it. Now, a little example of that, and actually nothing to do with my teaching, but it's just popped into my head now. I was actually out walking with my dog last week, and I bumped into a friend of mine. I think, you know, that several people are doing 10,000 steps a day. I've got a friend who's doing 331,000 steps for Deborah Ireland, and other people are doing it for cancer and for the Heart Foundation or for the things. And lockdown was there and people had the time to do it. And I bumped into my friend the other day, 2 weeks ago, and she said to me, this is what she was doing, because I see her out on the beach every day. And I just thought, oh my God, you know, I have so much admiration for you. How long does it take to do 10,000 steps a day? I thought I couldn't accomplish it. And she said to me, you know what the funny thing is, Jan? She said, I really need to get out and walk, and I need to keep fit, and I know that. And she said, I try it, and I just get bored after a half an hour. So I really decided to take this on to give me a reason to do something. And the strangest bloody thing is, she said, I can't wait to get out of bed in the morning to do my 10,000 steps. And it's the first thing that I do every day before I do anything else. And that really puts in a nutshell what I'm trying to say to people today. When you have a really good reason and a vision at the end, whatever it is that you're challenged with doing actually just becomes easier. And in actual fact, not only does it become easier, but it turns out truly that you actually come to enjoy it. I know that when we get into business, we're working for ourselves, Happiness is what everybody wants. Donal, you got it in one. And Carol Jones, Carol, you've got a driving school. All right, so I'm getting a sense of who you all are. So in all of these businesses that you're in, regardless, we learn so many things in the school of business. I know if you're like, I don't know if you're like me, but I've attended just about everything that I could possibly attend to learn. I think learning from other people, you just see a different perspective of how somebody looks at life. And I always come out motivated from listening to somebody, and I've studied with Dr. Joe Dispenza, with Anthony Robbins. I don't know whether anyone has attended an Anthony Robbins conference or webinar. Type in the comments if you have. I love him. I think when I was only in my 20s, I didn't write his book. I read his book. I think it was called Unlimited Power or Awaken the Giant Within. But apart from all of that, I was absolutely just, I guess, overwhelmed by the amount of other things that I had to get my head around. Seemingly to be successful in business. And there's advertising, then there was social media, and I'm an old dog. So I started out in business the day there was no social media, and then I had to learn it. And here I am reinventing myself again. I know that we have to have courage. We have to have a business plan. We need advertising. We got to understand marketing. We might need to employ some people, taxes, accounts, spreadsheets, and returns. For me, personally, I can only speak from my experience, I really suffered from overwhelm in all of that. Now, in later years in the businesses that I had some partners on board. I had an amazing board of directors in Synergy Telecom and the most amazing tribe of salespeople that bought into this vision, and they were as enthusiastic as me. So I had a lot of help at that level of business, turning over millions. And always remember that help is always there. And don't become overwhelmed with things that somebody else can do. All right, see, nobody else can have your vision, only you. But somebody else can do a lot of this other thing and delegate stuff out. Because when we become overwhelmed, unfortunately, as humans, we fall into procrastination. Procrastination is never not wanting to take action. We always want to take action. We lie in bed and think, I should, I would, I could, shoulda, woulda, coulda. I need to do these things tomorrow because I need to do them. But this overwhelm actually prevents us from taking action. And that, unfortunately, is one of the big things that I felt, the fear. I felt the fear. I didn't know how to sort through all the things. I knew all the things I had to do, but I didn't know what came first. I didn't know what was more important than the other. Was courage enough, or did I really need to know how to do a tax return? How the hell do I get my head around social media? I remember setting up my first Facebook account, joining LinkedIn, and it was all really scary. And it was very baby steps, but I could have done all of that a lot faster if I had reached out to some other people who would have helped me with it, because it isn't where my genius zone is. And every one of you have a genius zone. And that's where you do the thing that you love. It wraps around the things that you're good at and professional. It wraps around the things that you're no good at. So they're the things that you should be giving to somebody else. So you should be giving 80% of your time to what you're absolutely genius at. And all of the rest of it should be delegated out to other people. Because if you can make yourself, 100 euros an hour, what the hell are you doing a job that pays 10 euros an hour, if that makes sense? So all of these things are important, but none of them, absolutely none of them, are any good to you in your life or in your business if you don't have this vision. Because having a vision is really like setting your sail, okay? When you have a vision, it really actually doesn't matter what the worst situations that come to you. And the vision is not just a kind of a random, I'm not talking about sticking a sports car on a board on the back of your bathroom door. And I did that, by the way. So, I'm telling you stuff that doesn't work here. I did that to remind myself, that this is kind of what I want. But these are the things that other people tell you that success is all about. They're not things that to you success is all about. Success is about your happiness. Success is about how does it feel? You know, how does it look? How does happiness feel to you? What does freedom feel like to you? And these are the things that create the vision that drives you forward always. I think that we have never had a situation in the world where everybody has been just so upended. You know, I was completely and totally upended. I started this year, you know, I guess straight out of college with all my exciting new psychology information. And I advertised that I was doing classes, various subjects, but I did a class called Beyond the Law of Attraction. So I went beyond this law of attraction to all of the other psychological things that you need to do. And of course, I'm only up and running. I have the course totally booked out in 3 venues, delighted with myself, thinking, hello, purpose, I've arrived. And of course, the pandemic, and everything was cancelled. And like, I'm not the only one. There's been absolute upheaval in the world right across the human race. Nobody has escaped. There's a huge amount of fear out there. You know what? There's a huge amount of uncertainty. And I know that people are suffering anxiety, and I've had periods of that myself. Thankfully, I live near a beach, so I've been able to walk on it and look at the sails, remind myself. But what I'm really saying to you is, right now or during times when terrible things happen in your life, and I've had tragedies, okay, so I don't want to go into them, but quite a lot of them that I will tell you about when we talk maybe one-to-one. Your normal gets destroyed. And when your normal gets destroyed, you're really kind of left treading water. But when you have a vision that's really clear, and when your sail is set and things like that happen, you tend to be able to stay afloat a little bit stronger and with less panic and anxiety than other people do. And I actually think that right now we're all in a phase where the normal is gone. I think we're operating right now in a new normal, and that new normal is really trying to find, how do we adjust the sail, okay? How now do we tweak the sail so that it still takes us in the right direction? And a lot of people without a vision, without knowing where they're going, are having a real problem with that. And I'm talking to lots of people, both men and women, who just find that, you know what they are, they're just stuck, if that makes sense. They're just stuck. They just can't move forward. So when you have a vision, you can always adjust it. You can see it as a canvas or a painting, and you know, you can put some extra things in there. You can take some bits out. I like to see it as setting my sail. And I'll tell you something, that if the sail is set, and even if you have to adjust it, look at the reinvention that I've got through. I mean, this is the scariest thing that I've ever done. I've talked to over 6,000 people at the NEC in Birmingham, and I've trained, I couldn't even remember, thousands and thousands of salespeople. And this today scared the hell out of me more than anything else. And I'm doing it because I've decided that this is my purpose. This I know is what I'm meant to do. I'm meant to help and inspire and motivate and give some people direction. And you know what? When you have that in your mind clear, you're passionate about it, brings passion in. And it always makes sure that you just simply never, ever, ever lose your way. And that's the important thing about vision. Here's a visionary for whom I have such admiration. I would find it hard to believe that there's anybody out there who maybe doesn't have time from her. And I know now, looking at the greatest successes in life and listening to so many great people with their inspiration, a lovely man called Jim Rohn, if anybody heard, he passed away just a couple of years ago. And all of those people's teachings inspired me. But I always got glued to Oprah because she had an amazing vision, even as a child. And you know, it's so hard to have this vision and there's so much going around you. She came from such challenge, an abusive childhood, and just dreadful situations. But she always talked about always having this vision this thing, this who, she said, not what she wanted to be, but who she wanted to be. And I think that Oprah, there are so many others, but above a lot of others, is the epitome of what I consider to be a visionary. She said, I know for sure that what we dwell on is who we become. And this is going to be what I'm going to talk to you about this morning. What you dwell on is who you become. She was an absolutely remarkable lady. And another thing that she cited often, and this, I include this in my law of attraction teachings. She says, when your vision is clear, the results will appear. All right. And while that seems like a very simple, non-important, maybe silly little statement, you know, it's completely and totally, absolutely true. Because here's the thing, when sometimes they say a goal half set is half met, right? But a vision created correctly and clearly, a light up there that you go towards all the time, there can be nothing else more important than it. And when you move towards that vision, amazingly, the things that make it happen start to work towards you. Have any of you, some of you have had this experience, okay? Oh, I love this, Donald. The real voyage of discovery consists not in seeking new landscapes, but in having new eyes. All right. Okay, that's nice. I hadn't heard that before. Marcel Proust. Okay, nice one. I'm going to steal that from you, Donald, if you don't mind. When these things happen to us, I know that you've all had the experience of maybe deciding to do something, or maybe you're thinking about somebody for a few days or a few weeks, and suddenly something happens and you turn around to your friend and you say, oh my God, wow, that's just the weirdest thing. I was just thinking of doing that. And like something presents itself to you that tells you, okay, here it is. Why don't you do it? You think about somebody and next thing the phone rings and you pick up the phone and there they are. And you always say, oh my God, that's so weird. I was just thinking about you. And the problem with us is a lot of us tend to put all this down to coincidence. But here's the thing that I want to tell you. There's no such thing as coincidence in the universe. The universe governs energies. A human has a lot of energy and vibration. And there is a thing called synchronicity. And basically what that means is that energies from the universe sync with yours, okay? And they bring things to you. It's very real. It happens to everybody. And we need to accept it. And we need to be open to receiving this synchronatic happenings as things that are meant to be for us. I couldn't begin to tell you today, I didn't even make notes, of all of the things that happened to me, literally since January, on this journey of wanting to do this for people, that I kind of thought, oh my God. I mean, it was like signposts were popping up in front of my face everywhere, reaffirming, do you understand what I'm saying when I say that? Telling me that this is what you want to do. So when you know why you're taking the journey, all right, I'm going to tell you, and Oprah has also said it so many times, the universe is going to conspire. The universe is going to conspire to make it happen for you, because that's how powerful the universe is and how powerful we are as part of the universe. I wondered who would be a visionary for some of you here today. You know, who is there somebody out there that you really admire? You know, so I just popped a few in here that I just thought, okay. And I like this particular saying, you know, success is not a measure of intelligence. For the majority of people, it's a measure of vision. And I don't have to go into all the stories that we already know about people who became hugely successful but never went to school. All right, now I went to school. Would it have made a difference to my success if I hadn't? Honestly, truthfully, I don't believe that it would have, because I think I would have done the things I did anyway. I think I would have gone out and robbed the daffodils and told the lie to Avon to become a manager. I think I would have done those things anyway. But here's the thing about becoming a person with vision. Mother Teresa was a visionary. It wasn't about her. It wasn't about what she wanted for herself. It was about this passion and purpose, about the things that she wanted for other people. And she was relentless in the pursuit of making the lives of other people, disadvantaged and less fortunate, good. And for that reason, and because of that, the entire world was behind this lady. I mean, as a visionary with Mother Teresa, there's just absolutely no contest. Now, Michael O'Leary is a visionary, and I do realize that some like him and some don't like him, but it really doesn't make any difference whether you do or you don't. This guy set out to have an airline, to have the biggest airline in Europe. And Ireland, to be honest with you, be very proud in this country to have this guy who Ryanair is known in the far corners of the world. And I hope it comes through what's happened and some people start to travel again. But I have such great admiration for this guy. For me, it doesn't matter personally whether you like them or not, because the vision is inspiring to all of us. I also believe that sports people, see like Katie Taylor, pop here in the comments if there's somebody who's a visionary to you. You know what, a visionary doesn't have to be someone famous. There's people in your life. It could be your mother, your father, a sister, a brother. There are people just out there with vision. And one of the things that I notice about sports people is that the world gets excited about them, doesn't it? So it's sort of not business, but it gives us this reason to feel the passion of somebody going for gold. And I think Katie Taylor is one of those people. So here's the thing. We love people who are going for gold, okay? We want to root for them. You know what? We want to be part of it. We show up at their games. We spend hundreds and thousands on tickets to be part of the crowd, to get behind the passion of going for gold. Because ultimately, deep down in our hearts, we actually all want to do this. We all want to go for gold. And there is no doubt whatsoever, looking at all these people and all great sports people, look what they achieve. In the pursuit of greatness, vision is a driving force for every single one of these people who achieve amazing things. Nelson Mandela, blah, blah, blah. Sheila, you're telling me that synchronicity is what happened to you as a result of COVID-19. Okay, well, that makes two of us because I'm actually doing some things that are moving along so much faster than I would have at a snail's pace if it hadn't been for COVID-19. So there you go. COVID-19 is a synchronicity, and it's going to bring things about for people that they never would have dreamed would happen. So moving on from that, let's just talk about what you want in your vision. Successful is not an exact destination. It's too broad, it's too general, and it's way too loose. And you know, here's how I describe just wanting to be successful. I figure this is like showing up to the airport, put all your baggage, everything in your life, all your life baggage on a cart, in the boot of the car, you know, rock up to the airport and have no idea where you're going. Just you're getting on a plane. And so you go up to the desk. I ask so many people when I sit down with them, when I sit down with the sales teams, on a one-to-one, I ask them what they want. And especially young people, and what they like to say to me is, well, you know, I want to be successful. Okay, well, here's the thing. Successful is like going up to the check-in desk and saying, can I just have a ticket for somewhere warm and sunny? And I don't really mind what it is, as long as it's warm and sunny. And then what happens is you make the journey, all the life baggage goes with you, and you arrive. And when you arrive there, and it can take a long time to get there. Some of these journeys are long, and it could be years. And when you arrive there, you know what? It's not what you wanted. It doesn't look like what you want. It isn't really what you expected. It doesn't feel like what you want. It doesn't make you feel really happy because you really didn't think about the details of where you wanted to go. I mean, the desert is somewhere warm and sunny, but it's also somewhere where nothing grows. So what I'm really saying to you is you need to really get very specific about building your visions. If you don't do that, the journey to success without knowing your end game, you've got to know the outcome. And if you don't know the outcome, the journey to the success actually becomes a struggle, quite honestly. And success, if any of you have experienced, or if you are experiencing success being a struggle, just too hard, all right, that's really just because you haven't gotten really clear. Richard Branson, Sorka is your guy, I know, yeah. And Sorka's getting an island right beside him.
I sure am.
Sure is. And so what I'm saying here, and I'm repeating myself, but I just really want to hammer this home. You have to be really specific about where you're going. You can't just get on an airplane to a hot and sunny place in your life, all right? That's not good enough. You have to know exactly what are the things that make you tick, and exactly what are the things that ultimately make you happy. Okay, this is an exercise that you probably have seen before. And you know what, honestly, I think I did this like sometime when I was in my 20s, and I was like, oh, you know, I was so young, sure, I didn't even know what, you know, what do I want in my personal growth? I mean, I looked at my wheel and I thought, well, yeah, I had a social life, so I made that big portion big. The purpose of me bringing the wheel here up for you today is because it's an absolutely really wonderful exercise. And when you're building a vision for the success, your success, whatever that means to you, it has to include all the areas of your life. You can't leave, you know, you can't have a wheel with one section all filled out, because everything that you're going to do every day is just going to be for this success thing, and everything else, you know, is left go to pot, because you end up with a really buckety wheel that doesn't work. And unfortunately, and we know this in psychology, that when people's lives are very much out of balance or too leaned in just one direction, you know, the workaholic, yeah, I was one, we actually become emotionally imbalanced simply as just human beings. This isn't how we function. We need to have balance in our lives. And there are so many things that make us whole as a person. And just the job and the pursuit, if you like, of money, it's not actually a good enough thing. This wheel is actually used in cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. And I'll tell you what's absolutely fantastic about it. Now, I use it in my vision creation exercises to make a start. What I love about it is that everybody's wheel is unique, but when you fill in these areas, several things happen. It can be actually quite a grounding, nice experience for people, because it brings us into the moment, okay? Living in the moment. So it's a mindful exercise. It makes us mindful of where we are, what the other things are that we have that maybe we're not as appreciative of than we could be. And it also helps us to have gratitude for all of the things that are in our lives that are great and that make us great, apart from just this pursuit of success, which is just a small part of our lives. So really important for you to get all this balance. Now, this wheel is not your wheel, all right? Everybody's got a different one. So this one, for example, doesn't even have, I'm looking at this now, this doesn't even have spirituality in here. So that could be something. It is important to us as humans to have a spiritual connection, whatever your beliefs are. So we need to put that in there. You might like to make some of these sections smaller. You might want to make some of them bigger. In actual fact, you might want to take some of these out, and you might want to put ones in. But, you know, when I work with people on a one-to-one, we work through this wheel, making it very unique, because this wheel of life, where you are, where you're going, what is beside relationships and health on the wheel? Okay, the only thing that I can see on relationships and health on the wheel is Sorka. Thank you, Sorka. It's family on this wheel. It's family. What I'm saying to you is don't worry about this wheel, because This wheel is just a general one. And when we sit down and talk about your wheel, it's actually going to be totally unique. It needs hugely careful consideration to get this right. And when it is right, it's going to be as amazingly unique as you are, because this really is your map. Okay, this is your guide. This really is your compass. Moving on from the wheel, I want to talk about the heart in the game. Now, when I was in business, and particularly when I was in the telecoms business, it was a very male-dominated business, telecoms and even financial services. Just perhaps not the type of business that a lot of people. Oh, Donald, something is covered over on the wheel. Okay, we'll fix that. So when I decided to choose a logo, first of all, it came from something I feel very passionate about, and that is actually having your heart in the game. All right. So I chose this logo for two reasons, because it symbolizes two things. The first thing is it's a red apple. And there is a saying that says, when the apple is ripe, it falls from the tree. And the message behind that is simply this: we can never become ripe. We can never think that we know it all. All right, because we simply never do. There was always something to learn. There was always something that we can become better at. So we must always be growing, hence the green leaf. But this apple, a little unusually, has a heart at its core, because this is what you have to have at the core of everything that you do. And in the male world, I found that there's a lot of business speak. And oftentimes, because we had to go out and raise finance for our business, quite a lot, by the way, millions. And, you know, this thing used to go around like having skin in the game. You know, you got to have skin in the game, you know, because you got to feel the pain. If you don't have skin in the game, well, it's not good enough. Well, I'm going to tell you that skin in the game is not what you have to have. You have to have your heart in the game, because you have to be doing something that's lined up with who you really are. Your heart is your core, all right? It's what you actually really believe in spite of what you tell other people. And the heart is intelligent. Science now knows that the heart is intelligent. Science actually knows that our cells have memories. Every one of the 30 trillion cells in our body have memories, the heart more so than any. If you don't have your heart in the game of what you're doing, you can't have passion. And a really passionate vision that gives you purpose isn't possible without the heart. Now, I'm also going to say one other thing to you, that once or twice people have told me, well, that's a woman thing. And maybe this is a feminine thing, and that's fine. Feminine energies and masculine energies are necessary as a balance for us, whether we are male or female. And as far as I'm concerned, your values and your beliefs have to be aligned with what you're doing as your life's vision. It can't just be about, you know, railroading people and running over people to get what you want. And your heart is your gut. Now, in modern times, a lot of people have forgotten how to listen to their gut, okay? We do. Sometimes we get the feeling, but you know what? We don't. We let the head and the logic rule. And that really actually very seldom works in the long term. Always listen to your heart, because I'll tell you something here now, if you haven't already figured it out. Your heart is never wrong. You always know how it feels, okay? So you always know what feels right and what feels wrong for you. So your heart in the game and the journey of success and in the vision, the creation of a vision, is like a compass, all right? It means that you never lose sight of what it is that you're working for, what the outcomes are that you want on the journey, and what makes you happy. And like I've already said, if it doesn't make you happy, if your heart is not in this, and if it doesn't make your heart sing, okay, you need to change what you're doing and do something that does. Moving on a little from vision, I also said that we were going to talk about the importance of make-believe. And these two things actually now come together. The ability to imagine things, the slide says, pervades our entire existence. It influences everything we do, everything we think about, and everything that we create. Now, in the world of psychology, and I say modern psychology rather than all the way back to John B. Watson or Sigmund Freud, there are lots of different approaches now to psychology, but a lot of the approaches now refer to things that humans have called innate resources. So you know what innate means. You innately, automatically, instinctively know something. And we have resources that we use innately. And now we know through scientific testing and proving that the strongest and the number one innate resource that a human being possesses is the resource of imagination. It has now been proven that in actual fact, it is more important than any other skill. And maybe this might surprise you, but it is the one thing that we have that activates all of our abilities. All of our capabilities are activated with imagination. Our life cannot exist without it. It activates us mentally, it activates us emotionally, it activates us physically, it activates our very survival through fight or flight, and it directs your life literally every second of every day and every moment that you exist. The land of make-believe and why you need to go there. Make-believe is critical in life for human beings, not just as children, but even more importantly, as we become adults. Now, children have this ability to operate in both an imaginary and a real world at the same time. So I know that you'll all have had the experience of watching children playing. So I have two grandchildren now, one is 7 and one is 4. And it just amazes me watching them playing in the sitting room in here. You know, children don't differentiate between what is imagined and real. So to a child, the imaginary friend that they're talking to is every bit as real to them as the real friend that the parents can see. But the one that the parents can't see is just as real to a child as the other one. Children have the ability, to turn cardboard boxes into spaceships. I see my grandson with a little plastic Spider-Man figure, and I know that he's climbing a wall, saving a princess up the top of a big high building. And if you look at this picture here, you can see that these kids are playing with dinosaurs. The reason that children believe that what they imagine is real is that, number one, nobody has told them yet that it isn't. But more importantly, the brain is not capable of telling, ever, at any age, the difference between what is real and what is imagined. The brain actually does not know how to figure that out. So whether it's imagined or real makes no difference. And children don't ask the question about things being imagined or real until someone tells them to do that. Now, I like visuals and I hate texty slides, but this is kind of a texty slide. Because these are serious statements, and this is the one thing, okay, that I need you to go away from here today and really give a lot of thought to. These are transformational facts. By definition, the future cannot be real. By definition, the future simply doesn't exist. The future can only ever, at any point in time, be an image in your mind. Is that not correct? Okay, none of us have the ability to look into the future. So everything about the future is created in your mind. You create your reality. It's your complete and your total responsibility to create the future that you desire. And with every thought that you think, you actually begin the most amazing creative process You wouldn't believe it. We're going to talk about it for just a few minutes. And when you have a thought and it creates an image, we activate the capabilities of emotion, feeling, and physiological responses, which in turn lead to producing behaviors. Some of us are not terribly happy with the behaviors that our thoughts produce, but they can all be fixed, because those behaviors ultimately lead you into the one thing, okay, which is the actions that you take that are going to make a difference to everything that you do. So what I'm actually saying here, what is the bottom line with what I'm actually telling you, and I'll show you a little bit more, is that your vision that I've been talking about, your vision, your imagination actually creates your reality, because your brain doesn't know the difference between the two. Now, unfortunately, when children get a little bit older, and the sad thing is that usually around the age of 7, it can be as early as 7, but usually between sort of 7 and 10, children actually stop believing in imagination because they're told to. And they, as we, have become subconsciously socially conditioned by social norms that we accept. We tell children not to be silly. We tell them to stop that nonsense. That's only dreaming. And mostly we tell them about all the things that are not possible, all the things that they believe are real. We come along and we tell them that they're not possible. And I've no idea of the amount of people who come to me struggling to have a vision and struggling to believe in themselves, and the subconscious blocks, the limiting and destructive self-beliefs that have been programmed into their mind, not by any fault of absolutely anybody, but it just happens to be the world that we live in. So the best example that I can think of, Brenda, that's perfectly fine. You're very welcome. I understand that you have to go. Hopefully I'll get in touch. You'll get in touch with me. The best example that I can give you about your mind buying into imagination is to talk about a flight simulator. So pilots learn in modern simulators. These are not just dashboards. So a trainee pilot gets into a simulator and they're not just shown how to use the controls, and switch on the headlights or put on their indicators or whatever you do. They actually get the whole experience in the flight simulator. Okay, so they get the fog, they get the thunder and lightning, they get the turbulence, they feel the air pressure, they get crash landings, a wheel not coming down. And has anybody ever had an experience on one of those virtual roller coaster things, or those virtual reality glasses? Yeah. Okay, so if you haven't been in a simulator, then you know what I'm talking about. So here's the thing about this experience, all right? When you're wearing these virtual reality glasses, and this trainee pilot knows when he's in this simulator that this is not real. Okay, so you consciously know that this is not real, and yet your body responds as if it were. The heart rate increases, your blood vessels restrict, you can start to sweat, and you know what? You actually pump adrenaline, and it creates fear. And that fear is not imagined. That fear is completely real. Real emotion is completely real. Consciously knowing that this is not real doesn't make any difference. All that matters here is that you give the brain the experience of something, because it cannot tell the difference one way or the other. I want to help you to understand this just a little bit better. So don't get scared. I'm not going to give you an anatomy of the brain lesson, but I was looking for a slide, and I went for this one. All this is a zoomed in photo of the brain's signaling and messaging system. All right, because this is really amazing. I know it looks like a bit of a scary monster, but what happens when you have a thought is simply this. The brain sends through little sort of things like fingers called dendrites, and it passes a signal to every cell by batons. So the signal has passed millions and millions and millions of times in nanoseconds, okay, into the body. And it passes through a thing called the synaptic sac. And you may have heard, I find recently hearing people saying, oh, the synapses were firing. All right, and that really means that when you're thinking a lot and, you know, you're in a creative mode, the frontal lobe is going crazy. The synapses, the neurotransmitters are firing from the brain through the synaptic sac, all right? And the brain is delivering a message down to the body, passing the baton. And when they come to the synaptic sac or the synapses, the message crosses over from becoming a neurotransmitter and it turns into a chemical. And the chemical that it turns into is what we call emotion. So what has actually happened now is your brain had a thought. It went into full messaging signaling mode and it signaled to your body the thought that you had. The body in turn completes the delivery and the acceptance of the message from your brain, okay? And it creates an emotion and a feeling in your body. And now the brain has done its job. But what happens next is actually even more incredible. What happens now is that the body signals back to the brain how it's feeling. The mind-body connection works all the time. There's no separation between what goes on in the mind and the body. It works together. So now the body has a sensation, an emotion, and a feeling, and it shoots the message back up to the brain to tell the brain what's happening. And the brain begins immediately to build brand new neurological pathways to support that emotion and that idea. All right. I call these neural pathways new scaffolding, because what's actually happening here is that the brain is building new scaffolding to support you in whatever it is, whatever the experience is that you've chosen to give yourself through imagination or otherwise. Your brain accepts it as reality and it builds the scaffolding to support making that come true. And I find that that's absolutely incredible. Your brain allows you to learn new things, but more importantly, in this frontal lobe. Incidentally, the frontal lobe in the brain doesn't fully mature until into the mid to the late 20s. So if there's anybody really young on here and you're finding it hard to figure it all out, don't worry about it, because it will come to you. It also tells us that maybe we shouldn't make critical decisions when we're very young, because we might actually have the ability to make the right ones. The brain allows you to experience new things. It allows you to have new experience and allows you to feel new emotions. And every single time that you experience something, whether it is an imaginary or not, I can't say that enough, all right? The brain will make new synaptic connections, okay, to support that idea. So I'm telling you this. The clearer the images you can create to let your imagination run wild with the vision, okay, the more emotive those images will be, and the stronger the emotion they're going to create in your body. So you're going to feel this real emotion for what it is that you want to do, okay? That's the passion. And the greater the emotions, the clearer the images, the faster the brain actually creates the reality. All right, now just 1 hour of focus on an idea or a thing, just 1 hour of absolute focus on an idea, something you believe in, something that makes you feel really passionate, is enough to double the synaptic connections or the neurological pathways that the brain will build to support you in that idea. So if you want to make your visions real, what has been discovered is not in question anymore. The brain, your brain, creates the reality that you imagine. And I think I needed some fireworks, because I personally find that to be absolutely mind-blowing. It just blows me away. I don't believe that any of us, none of you sitting here listening to me this morning, quite get how brilliant the human brain is, or quite get how amazingly powerful you really are, and how much more in control of your outcomes you are than you believe. I don't believe that you do, but I think that it's time that you accepted it, and it's time that you understood that you create the imagination and the images that actually, at the end of the day, are going to become your future. I think the placebo effect, I'm just going to touch on it really briefly, is something that we all know a little bit about. There was an amazing documentary on RTE. I don't know whether any of you watched it, but I actually think it was literally called The Placebo Effect.
I saw that, yeah.
Did you see it?
It was amazing.
We're not going to go into it, because it was just, it just blew me away. I mean, these were people who had really, I mean, one old man couldn't walk.
Yeah.
And he climbed into a boat. Do you remember that? Mm-hmm. And they actually told him that the medication he had been given was in fact a placebo. And you know what? He wouldn't even take the real medication back, because he said, you know what? Leave me with this stuff, because it really works. Now, the placebo effect is about expectation. And it used to be believed way back in the days of the mind being separate to the body, that placebo was what is called psychosomatic, which basically means it's like we imagine it. You know, people say, oh, it's all in your mind. I mean, hell, if they only knew, it needs to be all in your mind. But what actually was discovered in more recent years is that when a person is given a placebo and understands that this is a real drug, and therefore has an expectation of pain relief, this has been tested in pain relief, the mind creates the same healing pathways, the same neural healing pathways as if the person took the drug. So we now know that placebo is not psychosomatic at all. It simply boils down to believing that something will work is actually enough to ensure that it becomes a reality. And that is the basis of what placebo is all about. All you have to do at the end of all of this, and we're coming to an end, is believe everything that I'm telling you. Believe it, because it's going to make such a difference to your life. I couldn't really finish this whole thing off without talking about Lady Gaga, because for me, she's amazing. Thank you. I actually talked to an older gentleman last week, and I said to him, I'm putting her in on my on this talk. And he said, oh my God, same thing. He said, oh my God, I think she's just amazing. And she really is just absolutely incredible. And when she was interviewed, and this is an interview that went back a couple of years ago, and she talked about her vision. And she actually talked about the fact that she had a really clear vision when she was young. And in fact, when they questioned her on getting famous, she actually turned around and said that she knew she was famous even before anybody knew her. Okay, she knew she was famous even before anybody knew her. It was a long interview, but she also said that she found that you simply tell yourself a lie over and over and over and over again until you start to believe it. And then she said one day her lie was true. And that's exactly the points that I've been trying to make to you today. She talked about having a sense of her own greatness, her power, the power that I'm talking to you, the power that you have as you sit here listening to me today. She said that this greatness and power and this ability, she said that you must know it and you must feel it deep down inside you. Now, I'm going to say to you that if all of this in the last 35 minutes or so doesn't convince you that you have unbelievable ability, amazing power, the power to create the greatest future, the most amazing future that you wouldn't perhaps even believe now, that you have. Well, nothing is ever going to convince you, because all of this is science, and everything that I'm sharing with you is based on fact. A lot of people get really worried and anxious and panicked when I sit them down in vision creating, goal mapping sessions, because inevitably they're all going to say, okay, this is all very well, but I'm worried about how I'm going to do all this. Okay, how am I going to buy the island, have the speedboat, the mountain? Well, how am I going to buy that mountain? And here's what I'm going to tell you about this is, the answers are already there. Everything is already out there in the universe. There is nothing that doesn't already exist. Okay, that's a fact. We have this tiny little life here as humans on this little tiny speck of a planet. In the universe, there's no time, space, dimension, and all the solutions exist. If you look up at a star at night in the sky, try it tonight, and you can see it, you're actually looking at the past. You're looking at the past, in fact, millions of years in the past. The universe is timeless, and in that timelessness, it has all of the answers that we need. There is somebody somewhere that will know what it is about how you need to do what you want to do. Solutions will come towards you when you are moving towards a vision. The only thing that matters in all of this is that you know your why. You absolutely must know why you're doing something, because that's the only way that you're going to get it right. You got to get the detail, the finest detail, really clear. You have to get your emotions involved in this. And I'm telling you this, if you build this vision correctly, if you do this right and you invest in getting this right, this is going to be a vision that will get your ass out of bed every morning. It will keep you excited. You will constantly come up with new ideas because the synapses will fire like hellfires. You will be determined as hell because the vision is so clear. You're passionate about it. That gives you purpose, so you never get tired of it. And no matter what happens to you, no matter what challenges come your way, because your heart is in the game, you're going to be happy. So I want to leave you with just this lesson on what I believe is the one thing that can drive you forward in the biggest storms, in the greatest challenges. And some of you have already done a little bit of it throughout this pandemic. Before I finish, I just do want to say that as far as I'm concerned, and I'm just a 100%. Oh, thank you, Alex. This is just what I needed to hear right now. The universe has definitely brought you to me. Oh my God.
That's great.
God, that actually kind of makes me feel a bit emotional. Thank you for saying that. That's amazing. The moment you change your perception is the moment you rewrite the chemistry of your body. Bruce Lipton, don't know. Absolutely love Bruce Lipton. I've read all of his books. I've got a couple of slides to go, and I want to finish. I have to finish I cannot finish without saying this. The greatest return on any investment that you're going to make is an investment in yourself. It's an investment in having this power, this belief, this passion, okay? This 100% unsinkable, invincible mindset. You cannot afford to leave any of the chance. You simply can't. There are no excuses for not investing in creating a vision correctly and getting the goal mapping, the life mapping for the steps that you need to take absolutely right. I provide a one-to-one coaching program on this is a signature program. This is specifically mine, and this is something that I just do. It also becomes exclusively yours because it is your vision and your map. Today, in thanks to Sorka Finucane and Trained In for even allowing me to be here, I want to offer you 4 sessions. I won't tie you to just an hour, but we're going to need at least 4 really good getting into the detailed sessions for you to get this right and for you to walk away with a vision that sets your ass on fire every morning that you open your eyes. And I'm offering that to you for 225 euros. Basically, what you're getting here is one of the sessions free, and the first one will be a clarity session. And I can promise you that at the end of this, you're going to have a vision that's going to be so clear and so beautiful, you'll want to share it with absolutely everybody. I also coach small groups, come along and inspire employees if you need that. If you have a big event coming up, I can do keynote speaking. And basically, I can probably tailor pretty much anything that you want to your requirements. If you would like to speak to me, please don't hesitate. Here's my phone number. I know that Sorka will share it with you as well. You mightn't get me because I'm pretty busy doing a lot of stuff, scanner. But do leave me a text message because I will come back to you. Tell me who you are, and if you're on the webinar especially, or you can get me here at this email, mcnamara@gmail.com. I got 2 T's in my name, which is why my business name is Jan McNamara. It makes it easier. And to finish up, hopefully on a good note, my favorite quote of all time. I think I have been using this. Anyone who knows me, has attended any of my sessions, will tell you I always come up with this.
Love that.
Okay, well, this is from Ralph Waldo Emerson. And whatever it is you do, people, whatever it is you do, Alex, Sorka, Brenda, and all of the lovely people who are on here, whatever you do in your life, make sure that you do it with your heart in the game, with passion and with purpose. Because when you do that, okay, people will buy into your vision. They buy into people who are going for gold. People are going to buy your product. They're going to buy your service. But mostly, people are going to buy you. So if you allow me, and if you'd like to work with me, I would like to help you catch on fire with enthusiasm, because people are going to come from miles to watch you burn. I thank you for attending today. It was an absolute pleasure to be here. I loved all your comments, just a fabulous group of people. And I seriously hope that I do get to see you sometime. I get to hear from you again. And thank you, Sorka, mostly.
Janet, thank you so much for your time. It's just been amazing listening to you, and I think everybody's just been engrossed in what you've been saying and can resonate with so many different things. It's great to see comments like that from Alex coming in, and I'm sure he's already tried.
Thank you, Alex.
You. I know.
Oh, thank you, Libby. Sorry, I'm thanking. Thank you, Anne. Thank you.
Yeah,
you're very welcome.
It's amazing the interaction that we've had with people throughout the call. I'm just scrolling back through the chat there just to see if there's
I've missed lots. I apologize.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
It was moving so fast I couldn't read.
Yeah.
Oh, Sorka, your webinars get better and better. Libby Lynch is telling you.
Oh, thanks, Libby. You're great.
Thank you, Libby.
Let me see.
Thank you,
There's
Aidan.
so many. I think if anybody has any questions for Janet there before we close off, just pop them into the chat. I'm conscious of the time. Oh, great, Sheila. I think people might have questions. They might want to digest. I've shared Janet's email there in the chat, so feel free to send her an email. Her LinkedIn connection is there in the offers at the moment. So if you click on offers, you'll be able to connect with her straight on LinkedIn. And I think that's a fantastic offer that you have, Janet. 4 sessions for €225. That is amazing.
Well, look, I mean, I know the ladies spend more of that on a dress, and oftentimes I spend it on my hair. So I'm not trying to be stupid prices here. I want to give somebody something that everyone can afford. Yeah.
No, I think it's fantastic, and it's definitely something that people should avail of if they think it's going to suit them. But I think we need to leave it there because we're nearly on 11:30.
Absolutely.
But do you have any parting comments that you'd like to say to the group?
Honestly, Sorka, just take what I've said. Just take it and just go do it. Don't be afraid of the imagination. Remember, your mind doesn't know the difference. And make the vision, make it right, and make it good. And I will, and I leave it. And I don't want it to sound like a salesy pitch for me, because this is not my life, it's yours. But do come and get some help. This is something, actually, I needed help with it. This is something that I actually couldn't, in fact, have done by myself. Just too many details in a vision that really works for you. And then too many steps to take, actionable steps out of that in the goal mapping. So come and get some help from me. And it's fun, apart from anything else, you know, it's fun. I have a safe, hygienic, socially distanced environment in which we can do this. It'll only be the two of us, and it's 100% confidential. You know, your dreams will be in safe hands.
And I can vouch for it that every single conversation I've had with Janet, it's always fun. There's lots of laughs, loads of inspiration, and you just feel so energized coming off every call. So thanks for that, and thank you so much for your time today. It was absolutely fantastic to have you on. I know a couple of people had to jump off the call, but the replay is there. The video was recorded, so everybody will get automatic emails for the replay. I'll pop an email to everybody later on, and I'll CC Janet on it. So if you want to reach out to her directly, you can do so. And I know you might make some phone calls to people after, so that's totally fine.
Absolutely. And even with questions, you can ask me questions, don't worry about it. I'm not going to talk you into anything. If you got some questions, talk to me.
Yeah. No, I know Aidan had a nice juicy question for you there.
Aidan, you have to give me a call, and that could be a long conversation, Aidan. That could be 2 cappuccinos you might have to buy me.
Great. Janet, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much for your time. Right. Thank you everybody for participating today, and we will see you all soon. Have a great day and take care. Bye for now.
Bye.